I never thought a dive bar on a Tuesday night would change my life, but then again, I never thought a lot of things that ended up happening to me. I was 26, recently single, after a relationship that fizzled out like flat soda, and my best friend Marcus had dragged me out because, in his words, I was becoming one with my couch. The place was called Murphy's, all dark wood and neon beer signs, with a pool table in the back that had seen better decades. I was nursing a beer I didn't really want when I saw him. He was leaning against the far wall, tall and lean in a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that made my mouth go dry. Dark hair, a bit messy, like he'd run his hands through it too many times. He was watching the pool table with this quiet intensity, and something about the way he stood there, so self-contained and confident, made my heart do this stupid flutter thing I hadn't felt in years. Marcus noticed me staring. Of course he did. "That's Ethan," he said, grinning like he knew exactly what was going through my head. "He's here most Tuesdays, plays pool like he was born with a cue in his hand." I tried to play it cool, but cool had never really been my thing. I watched as Ethan stepped up to the table, chalked his cue with these smooth, practiced movements, and sank 3 balls in a row without even seeming to try. There was something almost hypnotic about it, the way he moved around the table, the way he bent over for each shot with this perfect form that I definitely wasn't thinking inappropriate thoughts about. "You should play him," Marcus suggested, and I nearly choked on my beer. "Are you insane? I haven't played pool since college, and even then I was terrible." "Exactly. He likes teaching people. I've seen him do it before. Come on, live a little." Before I could protest further, Marcus had already waved Ethan over. My stomach dropped somewhere around my knees as this gorgeous man walked toward us, and up close, he was even more devastating. Green eyes, the kind that seemed to see right through you, and a slight smile that suggested he was perpetually amused by some private joke. "Ethan, this is Jamie," Marcus said. "He needs to learn how to play pool properly. I'm a terrible teacher, but you're a master." I wanted to murder Marcus, but Ethan's smile widened, and he extended his hand. His grip was warm and firm, and I may have held on a second too long. "I'd be happy to teach you," Ethan said, and his voice was like whiskey, smooth and warm with just a hint of roughness around the edges. "Fair warning, though, I'm a hands-on instructor. That okay with you?" I nodded, not trusting my voice, and followed him to the pool table. Marcus gave me a thumbs up and disappeared toward the bar, the traitor. Ethan racked the balls with efficient movements, then handed me a cue. "Okay, first things first. Let's see your stance." I had no idea what I was doing. I bent over the table, the way I vaguely remembered from years ago, gripping the cue like it was a baseball bat and tried to line up a shot. I could feel Ethan watching me, and my hands started to shake slightly. "Okay, so, a few adjustments needed," he said, and then he was right behind me, his chest nearly touching my back, his breath warm against my ear. "May I?" I nodded again, apparently having lost all ability to form words. His hands covered mine on the cue, repositioning my grip. "Lighter touch," he murmured. "You're strangling it. Let the cue do the work." His fingers were warm and calloused, and I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and clean that made my head spin. He shifted my stance, one hand on my hip to adjust my position, and I swear every nerve ending in my body lit up like a Christmas tree. "Feet shoulder-width apart," he instructed, his voice low and patient. "Lower your head, sight down the cue. See the line from the cue ball to your target?" I tried to focus on the balls instead of the fact that this beautiful man was pressed against my back, guiding my movements. His hand stayed on my hip, steadying me, and his other hand guided the cue through a practice stroke. "Feel that motion?" he asked. "Smooth and controlled. Now you try." He stepped back, and I immediately missed his warmth. I took the shot and completely missed the ball I was aiming for, hitting the cue ball at an angle that sent it rolling sadly into a corner pocket. Ethan laughed, but it wasn't mean. It was warm and genuine, the kind of laugh that made you want to hear it again. "Okay, we've got some work to do. Come here, let's try again." And so it went. Shot after shot, with Ethan standing behind me, his hands guiding mine, his voice in my ear giving gentle corrections and encouragement. Every time he touched me, I felt this electric current run through my body. Every time he stepped away, I felt the loss of his presence like a physical thing. "You're overthinking it," he said during one particularly disastrous attempt. "Pool is as much about feel as it is about technique. You have to trust your body, trust the motion. Here, close your eyes." "What?" "Close your eyes. Trust me." I closed my eyes, feeling ridiculous and vulnerable, and more alive than I had in months. Ethan moved behind me again, his chest against my back, and this time his arms fully enveloped mine, his hands covering mine on the cue. "Feel the weight of the cue," he said softly. "Feel how it wants to move. Don't force it, just guide it." He pulled the cue back slowly, then pushed it forward in a smooth stroke. "Feel that?" I felt everything. The solid warmth of his body against mine, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the way his voice seemed to resonate through my chest. "Yeah," I managed. "I feel it." "Good. Now, keep your eyes closed and try it yourself. I'll keep my hands on yours." I pulled back and stroked forward, and this time it felt different. Natural. Right. "Perfect," Ethan breathed, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Now open your eyes and take the shot." I opened my eyes, lined up the ball I'd been aiming for, and took the shot. The cue ball connected with a satisfying crack, and my target ball rolled smoothly into the corner pocket. "Yes," I shouted, probably too loud for the quiet bar, but I didn't care. I'd made a shot. An actual, intentional shot. Ethan's hands squeezed my shoulders, and when I turned around, his smile was brilliant. "See? You've got this. You just needed to get out of your head." We played for another hour, and somewhere along the way, it stopped being just about pool. We talked between shots, the conversation flowing as easily as the beer. He told me about his job as a carpenter, how he'd learned pool from his grandfather, how he came to Murphy's every Tuesday because it was quiet, and he could think. I told him about my work as a graphic designer, about the relationship that had ended, about how I'd been feeling stuck lately, like I was watching my life happen instead of living it. "I get that," he said, leaning against the table, Q resting against his shoulder. "I went through something similar a couple years ago. Bad breakup, felt like I'd lost myself in trying to be what someone else wanted. Took me a while to figure out who I actually was, you know?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I know exactly what you mean." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something passed between us, something unspoken but understood. The air felt charged, heavy with possibility. "Your stance is getting sloppy again," he said, but his voice had changed, gone lower, more intimate. "Come here, let me fix it." He didn't have to tell me twice. I moved to the table, bent over for the next shot, and Ethan moved behind me. But this time, it felt different, intentional. His hands settled on my hips, adjusting my position, but they lingered. His chest pressed against my back, and I could feel his heartbeat, fast and strong. "Is this okay?" he asked quietly, and I heard the question beneath the question. "Yeah," I breathed. "It's more than okay." His hands slid from my hips to cover mine on the cue, but we weren't really focused on the shot anymore. I could feel the tension between us, taut as a wire, ready to snap. I turned my head slightly, and he was right there, his face inches from mine. "I should probably tell you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "that I noticed you the second you walked in. And when Marcus brought you over, I thought maybe, just maybe, the universe was throwing me a bone." My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure he could feel it. "I noticed you too," I admitted. Couldn't stop staring, actually. Marcus had to practically drag me over here. Ethan laughed softly, and his breath ghosted across my cheek. "So, this whole pool lesson has been torture," I finished. "The best kind of torture, but torture nonetheless." "We should probably do something about that," he said, and then his hand came up to cut my jaw, turning my face toward his, and he kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, a question. But when I kissed him back, it deepened, became something more. I turned in his arms, the pool cue clattering to the table, forgotten. His hands slid into my hair, and mine gripped his flannel shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like beer and possibility, and kissing him felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. So, he said, a smile in his voice, same time next Tuesday? I think you need more lessons. I laughed, giddy and breathless. Yeah, I definitely need more lessons. Lots more lessons. Maybe we could also do lessons on other nights? I'm a slow learner. I think that can be arranged, he said, and kissed me again. That was 6 months ago. We still go to Murphy's every Tuesday, and Ethan still stands behind me for every shot, his hands guiding mine, his voice in my ear. But now, after we play, we go home together, to the apartment we just moved into last month. The one with the big windows and the bedroom where we stay up too late talking, where he holds me like I'm something precious, where I finally feel like I'm living my life instead of watching it happen. Sometimes I think about that night, about how close I came to staying home on the couch, about how a simple game of pool changed everything. Marcus takes full credit, of course, and honestly, I let him. He earned it. Last Tuesday, after we finished playing, Ethan pulled me close at the table, just like he had that first night. But this time, when he whispered in my ear, he said, I love you, you know. From that very first terrible shot, I was gone. I turned in his arms, not caring that we were in the middle of the bar, and kissed him. I love you too, I said. Even though you're a terrible teacher, I'm still awful at pool. He laughed against my lips. You're not awful. You're just easily distracted. Can you blame me? My instructor is ridiculously hot and insists on standing way too close. It's called hands-on learning, he said, his eyes dancing with mischief. Very effective teaching method. Oh, is that what we're calling it? He kissed me again, soft and sweet, and I thought about how lucky I was, how a moment of courage, a willingness to try something new, had led me here. To this man, this love, this life I never knew I wanted, but now couldn't imagine living without. We still play pool every Tuesday. I'm still not very good at it, despite months of very dedicated instruction. But I don't really care about getting better, and I don't think Ethan does either, because it's not about the pool, not really. It's about those moments when he stands behind me, his hands on mine, his breath warm against my ear. It's about the way he looks at me when I actually make a shot, like I've accomplished something miraculous. It's about walking out of that bar hand in hand, about the life we're building together, one Tuesday at a time. Last week, he taught me a new shot, something complicated involving angles and English, and a bunch of technical stuff I immediately forgot. I missed spectacularly the cue ball hopping off the table entirely and rolling under a nearby booth. We both dissolved into laughter, and as we crawled around on the floor looking for it, he caught my hand and just held it, looking at me with such tenderness that my chest ached. What? I asked. Nothing, he said. Just happy. Really, really happy. Me too, I thought. Me too. So yeah, I never thought a dive bar on a Tuesday night would change my life. I never thought a game of pool could lead to love. But then again, the best things in life are usually the ones we never see coming. The ones that sneak up on us when we're brave enough to say yes, to try something new, to let someone stand behind us and guide us through the shots we don't know how to take. And every Tuesday, when Ethan stands behind me at that worn pool table, his hands covering mine, his voice in my ear, I'm reminded that sometimes the best lessons aren't about pool at all. They're about trust, about vulnerability, about letting someone in close enough to help you aim for something better. They're about finding love in unexpected places, about taking chances, about the beautiful things that can happen when you stop overthinking and just feel. I still can't shoot pool worth a damn, but I've gotten pretty good at other things, at loving someone fully, at being loved in return, at showing up week after week for the person who taught me that the best shots in life are the ones we take together.